Here, new episode of Soloing Secrets, and this is Dickey Betts. Definitely, I've had a lot of requests to feature Dickey Betts, and I did create a 3-for-all episode last year. It was actually posted and created on April 6th, and 12 days later, Dickey had passed away. And to be honest, it kind of freaked me out. I was sitting right here, working on that lesson, thinking about him, thinking about the Allman Brothers, hopelessly staring at Fillmore East, which I had on the album frame. And I remember sitting here thinking, wow, it's just Dickey and J-Mo left. And now it's just J-Mo, which is really sad. Definitely the Allman Brothers are essential, very important and influential American blues rock band. Dickey's career started around 1960. The Allman Brothers were formed in 1969. He definitely was a founding member. And on his own, he's released, 6 solo albums? Dickey Betts Great Southern, Dickey Betts Band, and then 7 live albums, 1 compilation. He appears on all Allman Brothers, from the very beginning, and then he left the band around 2000. So definitely there's a big hole in this, legacy and this history of music, and Dickey Betts is very important, very influential, and I'm glad and happy to finally put this episode together. So here we go. Just like we've done on other episodes in the Soloing Secrets series, when you're checking out a certain player, it's always a great idea to scope out their influences, and that's going to reveal certain things they like to do on the guitar. Licks and phrases and playing habits and stuff. And with Dickey, there's a really interesting blend of early rock, people like Chuck Berry, blues, B.B. King, Albert King, and people like that, and also jazz too. And he definitely had a lot of influences, a lot of different things, going on in his style. But here's an image with Dickey Betts' elusive musical influences. And as far as Dickey Betts' actual soloing secrets, the things he typically liked to do when he'd grab a guitar and play a lick or a fill or a solo, and there's a lot. Modified blues phrasing, lots of pentatonic scales, also modal tonalities would pop in a lot. He would dip into Dorian and, some modal kind of flavors in his jams and his music. And, really intense string bending, very melodic, and these kind of turn the beat around phrases where he would grab a little handful of notes and then rhythmically play with the timing and doing 3/4 and stuff like that, and just odd meter and weird, rhythms and stuff. Very exciting, very dynamic guitarist too. But here's an image with some of Dickey's soloing secrets. So the music and examples in this episode came from 3 Dickey Betts-related albums, and I definitely steered toward the Great Southern, the first 2 releases that he had in the late 70s, not to mention some ideas from Eat a Peach too, from the Allman Brothers. And I was a little intimidated, there's a lot to go through. And this is not going to be a complete guide to Dickey Betts' soloing style, but we are going to hit some really important and kind of trademark things that pop up in his playing. So buckle up, here we go. With the opening, that's Run, Gypsy Run from Dickey Betts Great Southern, his first, Great Southern album. I think it's from 1977. I went out and specifically found that album. I was I want that record. I think I found that for $5 or $6, which is great. But Run, Gypsy Run, this actually starts somewhere around 125 into the song, and you hear this riff. On that low G note, and then it goes into a solo right there. So that first part, we're really just playing out of A minor pentatonic right there, like that. So it has a weird turnaround with the rhythm. So you're gonna basically do that twice in a row, and then end on that low G note right there. And then, like I said, it moves into a solo after that. There's a big pause right there, and then you've got... like that. So it starts, you know, out of A minor pentatonic, and we're in this position right there. And he's doing this really exaggerated bend to that D note right there, and he's kind of like bending up to E and then releasing it. Then he does a smear bend on that C. Like that. And it's really exaggerated. Like when you listen to it, notice how he plays that first bend. And then another bend and release there. And after that bend and release, you're going to do that C to D and then do two like slight bends on that C note. And then, so right there, that A to E, that G to A, and then bend that to B right there. And then, and it's very melodic too, and he's also setting up the notes and the phrases he's playing against that chord progression. It's really expressive, and he's targeting over those chords too. And then, so then after that little, then you hear this. And that G to A, hop all the way over and grab that high E back to that A, and then C to A, C to A. And then after you do that C A, C A, you're going to bend that up to B and back, and then climb down like that. And then right there he ends with that C to D, and then he hops basically in another position right there and starts this last lick on that C to D. So that's really crafty the way he did it here. And then he does it again right there. And then you go back to that riff we started with. And it keeps going there, but that's a really cool solo, and it's definitely capturing some of those little Dickey Betts kind of trademark moves and little motifs and stuff. Very cool. In that same song, there's this really cool implied lick happening because the chord progression's moving from A minor to D minor, right? And you hear this really interesting phrase. He's actually starting it with the same thing he started a solo with, like this. Right? The same, you know, bend on that D note, the smear bend on that C, and end on that A. And then right there, he's basically grabbing E, sliding into F, and then he's actually doing like a little part of like an F major 7, you know, arpeggio. Like that. And Dickey did that kind of thing a lot, where he would target certain, you know, notes or phrases over the chord progression. And right there, you know, finding that really crafty way to spell that out, you know, but like that. Really cool. Once again, same song, Run Gypsy Run. There's actually an A minor pentatonic speed lick hiding in the solo. This is really cool, like this. One more time. So he's basically grabbing this position of A minor pentatonic, and he's basically grabbing that G note, bending it to A, releasing it, grabbing that E note there, and then he literally just flies down A minor pentatonic with pull-offs, and at the end you're going to do that G, E, G, and then end on that A, like that. Something like that. And definitely Dickey wasn't afraid of cramming, you know, licks like that. Speed licks and these fast phrases, repetitive phrases, pull-off licks and stuff. Really cool. Next up's a lick from the song Bougainvillea, and this is also from Dickey Betts and Great Southern. And Don Johnson co-wrote this song. Don Johnson from Miami Vice. I thought that's pretty cool. But something like this. One more time. So it's this kind of sidestepping, sequence pentatonic idea. And this is played over an E major chord. And he's basically playing out of E major pentatonic right there. You can also think of C sharp minor pentatonic. C sharp minor pentatonic is also E major pentatonic right there. But he's doing this really interesting sequence. So he's doing this, so it's this cascading kind of eventual, sequence that moves down. So he's doing this. That's what it looks like really slow. And I just really like that sequence. I actually play sequences like that frequently. But you're doing that kind of rolling fourths kind of thing on the way down. So after that, then it's just rolling fourths on the way down. Like that. And right there, when you get to that that F sharp, move back to E, and then pull off F sharp to E, and then you're going to slide that F sharp to G sharp for the end. Really cool lick. Next up's a lick from the song Good Time Feelin'. This is from the album Atlanta's Burning Down from Dickey Betts and Great Southern. And it's in B flat. And it's this really cool kind of old school lick like this. It's got that old time kind of feel to it. So we're in B flat right there. Right? And he's doing this. So think of like B flat minor pentatonic right there. But he's doing that like that. And then do it again. And then right there you're going to basically grab that G, which is the 6th of B flat, and then a smear bend on that D flat, and then grab that B flat. So I like the way it ends. Like that. Tasty little lick right there. Next up are some of Dickey's repeating licks, and I basically borrowed these from One Way Out from Eat a Peach, and you can definitely hear him do this a lot in that song. And the first one here, it's basically kind of playing with A major pentatonic, and then we're going to basically look at a variation that's in A minor pentatonic. So we're going to look at major and minor. The first one, right, I think that's an A right there, right? So think of, A major pentatonic. We're doing that. Now let's do the exact same thing, but now do it in minor right there. Now think A minor pentatonic here. But we're going to do the same thing. But keep in mind, now your A note's right there with your middle finger instead of right there with your index finger. So it's the same idea, just twisted around. And you can definitely hear Dickey kind of do stuff like that, where he would use that and kind of sit there for a minute and then move on into another lick. So there's major and minor. Right? And you could also hear Dickey slide, and we can kind of investigate that too. And he would kind of weave, between sliding and then maybe kind of doing that little turnaround we just looked at like that. And the key to that is keeping your middle finger on the G string, and then you're going to change what finger you're using on the B, because we're sliding into that F sharp and then grab that A, and then slide that F sharp back to E and grab that A again, but now with your third finger, like that. investigate the same thing right here. The same thing. They're right there. Really interesting. That's just a little sample of some of those repeating licks that you hear from Dickey Betts, and he was a master of doing those. All right, last but not least is a lick from Brers In A Minor. This is also from Eat a Peach, and this has one of Dickey's signature repetitive licks in it too, like this. You know, something like that. And he's basically starting with this climbing, like double picked. Kind of reminds me of a lick that's in Whipping Post too, but that kind of double picked. And he ends with that, you know, EGE hammer on pull off. And then right here is one of his signature repetitive licks. So he's doing. And that's tricky. It's really weird. It's just 3 notes, but it's the way it works and kind of turns itself around that makes it really hard. So really slow, that G to A slide, and catch that C note right there. And then that A to G pulled off, and then grab that C and then G to A hammer on. C, and then A to G pulled off. But that's really, you know, tricky. You know, it's really tricky at tempo too, because it's fast and it's kind of like a twist your fingers around kind of lick. That's a really tough lick. It's deceptively hard to play. All right, that's going to wrap this episode of Soloing Secrets. Let's look at Dickey Betts. Definitely a legendary and sorely missed, you know, guitar legend, definitely. And Dickey's influence saturated everything. You know, when the Allman Brothers hit the scene, you got to remember, everybody was listening to the Allman Brothers. And by the time Fillmore East came out, I mean, forget about it. Everybody had that album. They were learning those licks. And that's the interesting thing about the Allman Brothers is you had Dickey and Duane. And their styles were very contrasting. You know, Dickey played different than Duane. Duane did a lot of slide and this kind of soulful blues stuff. And Dickey had this like jazz and almost country kind of fire where these single note licks and phrases and melodies and stuff. And really interesting to notice like the difference in sound between the two players. But when they came together, it was 6-string magic. You know, it was really great. And definitely, there's something about studying, you know, their music, whether it's, you know, Dickey's side or Duane's side. I wish I could play like Duane Allman. I wish I could play like Dickey Betts too. But definitely Dickey seemed a little bit easier for me to grab than Duane. Because Duane's style and, you know, with the slide and everything, it's so elusive and it's so historic. I can't really play like Duane Allman. I mean, I can't really play like Dickey Betts either, but I'm trying. And definitely, you know, some of these licks are really tricky. You know, like they're finger twisting and they kind of, you know, turn themselves around, especially those repeating licks and stuff. Really cool stuff. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Nail Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.